Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Arbitrary 20. As you can probably tell by now, we're going to be talking about some healing spells in this video, so let's get right into it with the one that was in the thumbnail and the intro skit, Goodberry. So at first glance, you might think Goodberry is more of a spell for survival or exploration type games, but it's actually one of the best out of combat healing spells in the game. To start, with the same first level slot, it does more healing than the average Cure Wounds, even if you have a +5 spellcasting modifier. And its healing is also equivalent to the maximum roll on a regular healing potion. But I think the most significant thing about Goodberry is that the berries last for 24 hours. The main thing this lets you do is use all of your remaining spell slots to cast Goodberry right before you take a long rest. And since they last for 24 hours, 8 hours later you'll still have those Goodberries and you can use them as really good resource-free healing during that whole next adventuring day. And we can actually increase the potency of this even more by taking one level of Life Cleric. This will give us the Disciple of Life feature, which will add 2 plus the spell's level to the healing of any spell we cast. And since Goodberry's level is 1, this will add a total of 3 to the healing of each Goodberry. So that'll bring the total healing of each Goodberry to 4 instead of just 1. So this will essentially multiply all of the healing we're doing with Goodberry by 4. And one last cool trick you can do in combat with Goodberry is give it to a familiar, and then when an ally goes unconscious, the familiar can go over to that ally, give them the Goodberry, bring them back to consciousness with no action required by you. And next up we have Healing Word and Mass Healing Word. I'm just grouping these together because the idea here is pretty much the same. Now the main reason you would pick these spells over Cure Wounds and Mass Cure Wounds respectively is the fact that they take a bonus action instead of an action. The difference in healing between the D4 and the D8 is very negligible, especially with the amount of damage that monsters are doing, so it's usually always better to go with the bonus action so you can still take your main action on your turn. And for similar reasoning, it's usually not worth upcasting spells like this as the amount of healing actually doesn't go up that much. And tactically, the main thing you should be using these spells for is bringing your allies up after they go unconscious. This is because these spells do such a small amount of healing that they're probably not going to save your ally's turn if you cast them while they're alive. For example, you have an ally with 7 hit points and you use a healing word to heal them 8 hit points. But the monster goes next in initiative and they deal 20 damage. Your ally still goes down even though you cast healing word, so your spell slot is wasted and that ally still doesn't get their next turn. So you may as well just let them go down and then heal them up afterwards. This way you'll probably end up mitigating more damage and saving your allies more of their turns. And third on our list we have Aid. Now at first glance this one may seem like an out of combat spell only, but it's actually a pretty good in combat healing spell. The main thing to notice here is that it increases current and maximum hit points. So if you cast this on an ally with 0 hit points, it will bring them up to 5 hit points. And on top of that, it'll have a lasting buff of increasing their maximum hit points as well for the next 8 hours. Though it does cost an action, which kind of goes against the whole argument I just made for Healing Word and Mass Healing Word, it is cheaper than Mass Healing Word and may actually do the same exact thing depending on the size of your party. And next up on our list we have Polymorph. Some may argue this isn't technically a healing spell, but if you're casting this on your ally, turning them into a giant ape, which is usually the best option, you're giving them another 157 hit points. I'd say that's a pretty good healing spell. And if you're casting this on one of your martial allies when you can first get this spell at about level 7, you're probably giving them a better attack action as well. The main argument made against this spell is that it doesn't scale very well, which is true. There's no beast you can transform into above CR 8, but the giant ape, which you'll usually still be using even at those higher levels, can actually survive a couple turns on average against the CR 30 aspect of Tiamat. It's far from as good as it was at level 7, but I'd say it's still up there as a decent and considerable option even at those higher levels. And last on our list here we have Aura of Vitality. This spell is okay in combat, effectively giving you a healing word every turn for a minute, but I think where this spell really shines is outside of combat. Over its full duration, the spell heals 70 hit points on average. There are 2 ways we can increase that, one of which we've already talked about, that being the Disciple of Life feature. That feature would add 5 points of healing to each time we heal with this spell, bringing our new average to 120 hit points of healing. The second thing we can do is get the extended spell metamagic option either through sorcerer levels or the metamagic adept feat. What this will do is double the duration of the spell and thus double the amount of healing we can do with it, bringing us from our average of 120 to 240 hit points of healing for 1 3rd level spell slot and 1 sorcery point. And since we're on the subject of sorcerer and metamagic, there's a few things I'd like to mention here. First off, a second metamagic option that works really well with 2 of the spells on this list is Twin Spell. Twin Spell is really good with Healing Word and Polymorph. For relatively cheap, it'll essentially let you cast those spells twice within the same amount of time. And the other thing I want to mention is how significant the Font of Magic feature can be. Since our spells like Aura of Vitality and Goodberry both don't upcast, it can usually be worth it to sort of downscale our spell slots using Sorcery Point and spell slot conversion through Font of Magic to be able to get more casts of those spells. For example, if you have 2 second level spell slots, you can convert those into 6 Sorcery Points and then back into 3 first level spell slots. In the case of Goodberry, this would give us an additional cast as opposed to if we just upcasted Goodberry to second level. I do have a couple of honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list. The first one being Heal. This spell just barely didn't make the list. It is pretty good, and it is a really good target for Twin Spell as well. And this is one of the few spells that's actually worth it to cast on your ally while they're still alive, as it probably can save them another turn. It just didn't quite make the list because it is a 6th level spell, so it is quite expensive. And the second honorable mention here is Prayer of Healing. This spell can be okay, but if you have the Life Berry combo, that being the Goodberry spell and the Life Domain Cleric feature, it's usually just better to convert your spell slots into casts of Goodberry than to use this. But that's all I have for this video. In my next video, I'm going to be doing a build guide that gets all 5 of those spells and tries to be a really good healer while still also doing good sustained damage as well. So if that video has released and you'd like to check it out, you can do so right here. Otherwise, thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment down below letting me know what you guys thought. I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I will see you in the next one.